Okay. Good morning. This is Susan Cosno. Welcome to the OSU PDC Pro Office Hour. This is my group. This is the Office Hour for Oregon State University PDC Pro Summer 2026, January 5th to June 7th, 2026. This is call number 2. And the next lesson due is lesson 2, Landform, which includes the base map and client interview, due next Monday, February 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific. All right, so we got a few folks in the waiting room here. Where are my people? There's my waiting room. Good morning, good morning. Hi, Merle. Oh, I'm going to turn my volume up. Let's do this. I'm like, why can't I hear anybody? Your volume's off.
Yeah. Trying to start with mute on, just, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Hi, Sage.
Hi. How are you doing?
So I have got your assignment. It was supposed to get marked first thing this morning. We're having a little injured dog issues.
Whenever you get to it.
It'll be probably right after this call.
That's cool.
How did it go for you?
Good. I was actually, the reason I was a little late is because going into the course, I didn't realize that we needed, a site that we could actively observe and on a regular basis. So once I saw the module and everything for lesson 1, I was kind of scrambling around to find an actual site because I live in an apartment and I live in Los Angeles, and I don't even know anyone that lives in a house that has a yard. That would be down to let me do something. The property that I was originally planning on kind of designing for, which I think will be a later project, is my partner. She's from Kenya, and her family has a ranch in Kenya. That is like a cattle ranch, but is going through drought and basically can't sustain the cows anymore. So that was kind of what is something that we want to do down the road. But so I figured it'd be better to have something local that I could look at. And fortunately, I have a buddy who's an architect that's working on a project in the Pacific Palisades. So and he was like, yeah, we could do
that's great.
A permaculture design there, as they're building the home right now.
Okay. Is that a rebuild post-fire?
Post-fire. So it's from the ground up. Construction hasn't started yet. It's just an empty lot right now, but they're they're in the design phase. But yeah, so I was kind of scrambling around the beginning of the week trying to find somebody that would let me, somebody local that would let me do something. But
yeah, you will definitely, for the soils analysis in particular, you need something that you can access. So
yeah.
Even students that they can access it once a month, or they can get there a couple of times during the course. It's a real struggle. So that's really helpful that you've got somewhere local. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the assignment was cool. It was interesting. I went out, checked the site out, and all the climate stuff that it brought us through was super interesting. I mean, honestly, there's a lot of info that I was not aware of the place that I live climate-wise. So it's good to do a little research.
Yeah. Okay. Often the water layer is really is a big eye opener for folks too. Especially in the drier parts of California. They're like, oh, we actually have water here. I'm like, yeah, we got water here. You just have to learn how to manage it and store it, and figure out how you're gonna do that. So cool. How big is the site?
The lot is I don't remember the exact number. It's around 9,500 square feet, something like that. So a little under a quarter acre for lot size.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
And the home that's being planned to build there is sizable. So there's not a ton of dirt.
So it'll be a lot of edge periphery stuff.
Yeah. And I got to sit down with the architect and talk a little bit more about the direction they're taking. But part of the concept is it's like a home within a garden. So they actually have you go through the front door and there's kind of an indoor atrium courtyard situation that is also going to be planted. So it is, even though it's a pretty good size home, it is the intent is for it to be pretty integrated into the landscape design around it. So
great. Okay. Well, and there's I'm assuming it's at least a 2-story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's going to be a 1-story, but then the neighbors started building so high that they changed the plan to go to 2 stories.
Just keeps going up and up. Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, because we had a house in Camarillo up until June.
Sure.
So, yeah,
Cool.
that vertical space gets really useful, especially on the sunny side, right? Because then you get the shading
Right.
factor and stuff, and any kind of like, you know, sizable deck space or balcony. You know, there's like container and climbing options and so forth.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
well, how are you doing, Merle?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a week of temperatures around 20 at night,
Mm-hmm.
and made all our apple trees really happy.
Nice.
Threw them completely into dormancy. So now I'm working on the typical winter pruning, which you can't really do until they're totally asleep.
Right.
You know.
And do you normally have to kind of manage that around fall? Like, do they tend to stay active longer? How do you manage that balance?
2 times a year you prune. One is in the winter after they're dormant. That's all the big stuff. And then summer and August, right after their full flush out, before they really started to support the fruit, you can take a lot of the water shoots and stuff and open the top of the trees. Yeah. And my challenge is when we moved here, I had 2 pear trees and 5 apple trees that hadn't been maintained in probably 15 years.
Right.
They were basically a bird's nest of branches.
Okay.
So 5-year plan on 3 of them, 8-year plan on a few, and I'm not sure I'll be able to save a couple of them. We'll see. I have one that was significantly damaged and it split a long time ago and then just grew crazy on one side.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm trying to regenerate branches that are lower, and if it doesn't work, then we'll lose it. But, you know, it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, minimal effort, give it a shot. So that's been my task the last week. Kind of nice. When it's that cold, the ground is hard. It holds a ladder.
Yeah, that's nice work for sure.
Yeah, next week it'll be muddy again, so it won't be as easy to do. But yeah, other than that, doing a little work and planting gardens. My wife's counting seeds and doing inventory, stuff like that for our personal garden. So
that good winter stuff. Nice. All right. I'm going to say hello to Oren, and then I'll get started. I'll do what I did last time, do the little tutorial on the template, and then we can do questions. Oren, good morning.
Good morning.
Are we going with video or no? Oh, you muted. Boop. There.
Yeah, man, I'm just coffee and stuff.
Okay. All right. I'll go through the tutorial then. Okay. I didn't disturb you. All right. Where are we? Oh my gosh. Okay. New template. I've got an agenda. Start an agenda. There we go. Do we all have an agenda in some way? Some form? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we did a little welcome, arrival, and grounding. Okay, general overview of lesson 2. I'm going to do a share screen. New PDC project. Okay. And I put. Okay. So we are working on base map is going to be your first design assessment. So this lesson is 2 design site assessment assignments. Both pretty straightforward. I think your base map is really the foundation for the entire course, so don't screw it up. No pressure. It's Javin Bernakovich puts on a couple of base map clinics, and they're really, really useful. So whether you can make the lives, which if you know, there's first come first serve, so if you can actually get his eyes on your base map, that's helpful. We can also bring it up here today if you're started on it already. You can shoot me questions about base maps, anytime, but over the next week for sure, as you're working on this. But he does a really good like overview of the base map assignment. He's done these clinics for a number of years now, so there's lots of recordings if you aren't able to make the live. But like I said, it's first come, first serve. If you do make the live, you can actually have him workshop a little bit right there. If you can do that, I recommend them. He's a wealth of knowledge and can often give pointers that come from that experience. Okay, so it's a pretty simple assignment within the template. Okay, so you're going to start, you've got this blank page, you've got the legend on the left, which has all these different patterns, icons, titles, and then second slide. You can just save this as a resource because some of them you'll probably end up using later on in your actual design assignments. Your base map right now is existing conditions, so you're not adding in what you think you're going to have, or if you've got something like a prepared building site where that's not going to change, it's set in place, that's where the building is going. Stage, this might apply to you. You can do like a dotted line to show that like this is an existing reality that's going to be built in, but it's not there yet. But otherwise, you're looking at existing trees, existing water lines, irrigation, spigots, fences, pervious surfaces, anything like that. So we want to find out where are you at right now, because that's the foundation for what you're designing into. Okay. This is going to be your first real interface, I think, with the theme builder. It's a good opportunity for you to get your information bar really nailed down. Go back to lesson 1 and see if I left any comments there. Like if you've left out your address for privacy reasons, that's fine. I'm not concerned about that. If you end up deleting one of these cells entirely, do actually go up and either delete the column or merge the two cells so that you don't wind up with just a blank space. Like I said, if you're concerned about privacy, you don't have to include the exact coordinates. I do actually have, as part of the course roster, all of your address information stored privately. I kind of overlooked that fact. So if you're not using your address in here, it's fine. If you don't need to email it to privately. I do have it, but it's available only to administration and instructors. So then your area and elevation, whether that's in square feet, square meters, acres, hectares, just make sure you've got the area of your property, and then elevation can be a range. So whether it's from 120 to 600 feet, or if you're in meters, that's fine. Which brings me to a point. I see a lot of students actually kind of can get quite far in the course without having specified which units they're using. So get this nailed down in your base map. You're going to use the scale ruler, the black and white here. Calibrate that to something of known distance. So that might be a driveway or a roof on your map. And then so set up your that distance there, and then rewrite this with the units that you're going to use. So whether that's 10 meters, 10 feet, it doesn't matter to me as long as it's consistent throughout the course. So obviously, if you're in Canada or a lot of parts of Europe, you're probably going to be using meters. And if you're in the US, possibly in the UK, you'll be using feet, whatever works for you. And then your scale is a unitless measurement. So it's going to be something like 1 to 1400. So that's so that if you measure like an inch on the map, it's going to translate into, say, in that case, 1400 inches on the ground, which is why it's unitless. So if you measure one of something on the map, that's how many you have to multiply it to get an exact measurement on the ground. Your ruler, on the other hand, is something that's a little bit more, it's really quick and easy estimate. So you can see like, oh, that looks like it's about two of those mark widths. So that's going to be about 20 feet. So they're both very useful, but they have kind of slightly different purposes, and they both need to be there. So your scale is not going to be like 1 inch to 1400 feet. It's going to be 1 to 1400 or 1 to 14,000. There are some tutorials on that. If you need more detail, feel free to email me. It's not necessarily easily intuitive. Some people get scale really quickly. Some people struggle with it. I'm on the struggle bus. I'm on the struggle end of the scales. But having worked with them for quite a few years, many years, I can help walk you through in a way, hopefully in a way that helps you kind of grasp it and get something that makes sense for your sleep. Oh, and here's David.
Hey, Susan,
Yes.
can you show us how you edit that?
Yeah. So let me see, because I don't have an image up, but you can. Oh, okay. So this is a stock image, unfortunately. So you can stretch it. It's not like, unless they've changed it. Ooh, ungroup. Oh, tell me they didn't. I hope they did. Yes. So if you go into this and you right click it, or if you're on a Mac, I think it's Control click, then you can ungroup it, and then you can edit that text right in the scale. So you can choose 10 meters or 10 feet, whatever works for you, or that might be 5 meters, 5 feet, depending if you're on a small site or larger site. Keep it approximately, I'm just gonna keep it approximately this size to fit into the information bar. Okay, so the numbers are one group. No, okay. And then this is, yeah, so this is all one image. So this you can stretch a little bit. Ooh, that stretched it a lot. To fit your image. Yeah. It doesn't play super nice. But you can also go into your format options, size and rotation, and you can play with it this way. Like you can, if you don't have your aspect ratio locked, you can make it a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. You can decrease, make it thicker, wider.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
So then when you're talking about the scale, my understanding was that scale is just if it's printed, then you're showing, like on this physical copy, this is how many of these units equals a, whatever the unit is, a foot, mile. But since this is digital, it can be printed at any size. So how do you, am I missing something?
No, so they are, let me find an image. Oh, that's in theme builders, right? So if you drop an image in there, it's going to have, let me see. Yeah, so this is reading in inches. So it'll have a size on there. So then you can scale it to that. These, I believe, are set to print on an 11 by 17 page. So you're going to want to scale it to the image size that you've inserted here. Okay. Does that make sense? Oh, I've got fingers up. Yeah.
I don't know how to use my mute. Okay, I think so yes, sorry, the mute's hard.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying that assume we're printing on an 11 by 17.
Yeah.
For that bottom left scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go back on that.
Thank you.
Yep. If you get stuck on working out what the scale is, focus on the ruler, because the ruler is really the easiest, like, intuitive thing. So just focus on getting that. So like if that says, say, that's supposed to be 20 feet or 100 feet, whatever, that matches something on your map. Because if it doesn't, then you're going to have, you'll have, like, say, a property boundary that according to your ruler says it's 187 feet and it should actually be 1,870 feet. That sort of things will happen. That's the one that the scale ruler is the one that I'm going to use more than the actual scale. So if you get hung up on it, just drop the unitless scale and we can cover it in a little more detail. But the ruler is the one that I find really most useful. So like, because with the digital format, it is a little bit trickier. So if you're hung up on it, just focus on the ruler. Okay. David has a question. All right, David, yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry to join the late. You may have already covered this, and I apologize if you did, but on my map, I have a hard time getting an even number scaling in Digital Pro. So there's a default scale there. But no matter what I do, it seems to end up with like 1,537 feet or whatever. And it's a large scale to begin with. When I try to translate that into a more sensible number, something around usually, I'm not sure how to do it.
You mean for the ruler or for the scale?
For the ruler.
For the ruler? Yeah. Can you find a middle ground, like a 1,600 feet or?
Yeah, it's just that the mouse sensitivity is such that getting it to land on 1,600. I mean, I could just fake it and turn 1537 into 1,600 or whatever, and hope that you don't notice, right? But okay. The problem is, just the sensitivity of the controls, especially at the scale that I'm working with, has been a bit challenging. So I didn't know if you had some advice that might be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, especially for larger sites, because the scale of this map is so far from the scale that you're actually working at. I'm okay, get it close enough, because even if you're using Google Earth Maps, correct?
Google Earth Pro, yeah.
Yeah, Google Earth Pro, yeah. So your error within that is already at 3 meters. So
right. That's a good point. Sure.
Right. So then we're already there's all these compounding estimates. So what I really need is okay, is that a 100-foot greenhouse or is that a 20-foot greenhouse?
Okay.
Is that a 2-acre site and sometimes those scales, I had one, actually I have one student that has a very large building on their site. So I'm looking at them this looks like a 2-acre property, but actually the building scale is so much larger than. So that's the sort of thing. So really close enough is close enough.
Okay, cool. That's really helpful. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. And you can provide a note to that effect too, if you want. Yeah. But I do take that into account, that especially at those bigger scales, it just gets harder and harder to get something that's very accurate.
Kind of a follow-on question that pursuant to some of the conversation we were having in your original set of comments on Sign for Week 1. One of the approaches that I'm trying to take to break things up and make them more, sensical is I've taken the whole site and I divided it into subsites, and I'm creating. It's going to be a much longer process for me, and I'm aware that I'm signing up for a free meeting here, but it makes sense to do it that way, right? It's ultimately in some time frame, I want to achieve that level of detailed focus. But and I'm probably just whining out loud here, but creating this kind of scale and ruler on each of those smaller subsite maps, which I intend to include in my overall design. I mean, there's 13 of them, right? So I'm gonna end up doing a lot of kind of tedious manual scale and ruler creation to support the visuals for all of those subsites. And I'm okay to do that. I just want to, if there's an easy button here, I would sure love to know about it right now.
Yeah. And we talked, we did talk a little bit about that. With respect to as much as possible, and with respect to the base map, go with your whole site and then just pick one of those to focus your design on. Because as the course goes through, you're going to get snowed by trying to individually design each of those separately. And especially for the water analysis, you are going to be looking at the site entire. So as much as possible,
just try to keep it together.
You should keep it together, Dave. Yeah, try to look at the big picture, and then just pick, like, say, the home site. And if you've got bandwidth, like, for it, like maybe in like the orchard annex to that, like keep it to like zone 1, 2.
Okay.
Because you're also in the agrarians program. I don't know how is that going for you?
It's going pretty well. It's
Okay.
My interest, as you just suggested, is actually for this course too. Although I'm going through all of it and trying to and make sense of it as a whole. Water is my primary focus right now.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, as you pointed out, for water management purposes, the whole site approach is necessary.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm doing there. And in the agrarians too, I think, I can't remember, I think I was talking about this with Javin when I did his base map clinic last week. The, in the agrarians thing, we're just using QGIS and Google Earth Pro, and there's not the additional translation out to Google Slides, which adds that layer of, that's where some of the tedium around like scale creation and translation arises, because the tools are integrated for GEP and for QGIS, which makes it easy. I don't have to dump onto a slide and then kind of fake align everything and stretch and blah blah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you feeling like are they going to integrate well, or are you sort of duplicating work?
Mostly it's integrating well. I think mostly it's been a benefit, and the sequencing has been favorable too, because I started the agrarians thing about a month prior to starting the PDC class with OSU, and so that gave me a nice opportunity to kind of to catch up a little bit, and I had a good leg up on my base map and some of the other stuff. So mostly it's been a favorable relationship. I think the only part that's presenting, again, what I would characterize as just an inconvenience is just that translation to the slides.
Right.
That's it.
Right. All right. Well, if it's, we'll keep moving through and.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, just I'll take a deeper look at it today and see if I can give you any pointers there to kind of help direct that. So, okay. All right. So this is, I just want to check my notes on base map that I didn't forget to tell you guys anything. Okay, so a lot of this can go into your theme builder. So especially area elevation, if you're doing coordinates, address, name, date, project title, all of that is best stored in your theme builder, and then it's going to replicate across your maps. Now, like what Dave is doing, if you're going to be working at maps that are going to be different scales, you're not going to want to do that with your scale and your ruler. You're going to want to do that. Make sure that that's tailored to each map. And the other thing is the compass rose. They stick it here. I like to see it on the map. I'm not going to choose one. Yeah, I'm not going to be fussy about it. I find this one a little bit visually cluttered. I like seeing just a plain white N and a white row or white arrow, which you can find PNGs of online. You can make one in Google Earth or in Google Slides, whatever works for you, whatever works for your map. If anyone has, I haven't seen any come up this group. If you have if you're watching the replay and you've got a long, narrow site that makes more sense to flip. So like say you've got north, south instead of east and then east, west, go ahead and do that. Just make sure you've adjusted your compass rose accordingly. So you really want to use up the most of your page that you can. All right, I see your question. Oren, looks like you can generate a dynamic scale bar in Google Earth. Maybe you could use screenshots of the line. Yes. So generally, when you go to save an image in Google Earth Pro, it will give you a scale bar. However, that's like your widest bound. So that's going to be your whole scale. That's not going to give you the demarcations like the scale ruler does. But you can use that. You can screenshot it. It tends to get blurry and like the resolution isn't great. So what I would recommend is Also not screenshotting it and putting it in separate to your image in case it ends up because if the image and the scale end up changing independently of one another, like if you happen to be resizing something, then suddenly the scale bar from Google Earth is meaningless. So unless you're going to really like keep that tight, I wouldn't separate those two. Okay, Oren, yep, see your comment. But then use that to calibrate your scale and your scale ruler, and that's fine. Okay, Oren, your comment went away. Did I answer that? Not. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. But yes, that Google Earth bar is quite useful for calibrating that. Sorry for when you asked, when we were talking about that, that slipped my mind. And that, just keep in mind, that is incorporated, that does include that error of 3 meters, like as much as 3 meters. So the ideal is to measure something on the ground, like a roof line, like the width of a driveway, something that is not going to change. You can get out there with a measuring stick or measuring tape or rolling measure and get an absolute measurement on the ground, because then you've ground truthed that measurement and you know what it is for real, not Google Earth's estimate. So, okay. Use the icons and the legend. I went over that. You've got extras up in that slide. Compass rose. I think everybody that I've marked has got this down. If you want me to leave comments in your slides, give me share permissions as commenter. Now, what has changed in this cohort is there is now the ability for me to record feedback directly into video and tag it to your speed grader. So this wasn't working for the first 2 students, I think, that I marked for lesson 1, so my apologies. But going forward, you will get about 10 to 15 minutes. It's usually like 10, 12 minutes of video feedback on your assignment in your speed grader. I find the video feedback works really well for students because you don't have to go through it and read all the comments. You can just scroll through and I can point things out on the slides as I go. If that doesn't work for you, let me know and we can adjust. But that's really, for me, and I think for most students, it's an ideal way to provide feedback. If that's not you, let me know. All right, the grayscale map is where we're next going. All right, so this is one that you're going to see used throughout the the course. The idea behind the grayscale map is that if you or a client needed to print it out on paper in black and white, then it would still be legible. So make sure that you've got that, whether that's icons or arrows and stuff, make sure that that's still legible when you turn it into grayscale. There's pretty detailed instructions. I'm not going to go back over them on the left here for how to upload that image or how to create the image in the slide and then save it and upload it to Theme Builder so that then the grayscale base map populates everywhere that it's needed in the rest of the course. It's kind of a handy feature that is new to this iteration of the course. So if you have any troubles, reach out to either me or Dow Orion is really helpful with Google Earth specific questions, and especially for Theme Builder. Okay. So yeah, there's pretty detailed instructions around here. Hopefully that's enough to get you through. Okay, and then the second design site assessment is your client interview. AI assisted tools and Animus Paint were helpful. Yes, there's a lot of background noise on the Google Earth Pro scale bar. So, Dave, I was just looking for a way to export the scale bar, you mean? I'm assuming, other than screen clipping. But yeah, AI assisted tools in MS Paint. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I was just dialoguing with Oren there because it was a good suggestion. I tried that also, and it wasn't 100% successful. So.
Okay. So you're saying that there's an AI tool in MS Paint?
Yeah, they have. I just noticed that they have like magic erase background.
Oh yeah.
Right,
okay.
Things like that. They're AI powered. So yeah, I've used that a couple of times now to good benefit.
Okay, great. Thank you. We are all learning from each other every day, especially in the AI realm. Okay, client interview. You're going to have two options, either a single client interview or second slide is a multiple client interview. Now, you may be the client, this may be your family, in which case you're using the multiple client, or it may actually be someone else's property. Whichever fits for you, use some nice clear images, and then just fill out the template. It's pretty straightforward. I can't really see any that you wouldn't end up using. If that happens, you can go ahead and delete that row, but for the most part, I can't imagine these not be useful, have something to fill in here. Even if there's no animals on site or you put just wildlife, that's fine. Okay, and then you're going to be doing a site interview, and this is all just existing and desired. So what have you got? What do you want? Or what do they have and what do they want? Just go through all of your structures, heating, cooling, cooking, all of any details that you can provide here are helpful. So gallons of storage, even like different irrigation systems. Okay, David, got your question. When the last well check was, which you'll document later in the water analysis, but well depth, gallons per minute, any of that kind of information. Same for heating and cooling. What kind of systems, how old are they? All of that is helpful. Even just as a log. I mean, this is an inventory, right? So you can go back to it down the road and refer to. Same thing, if there's something here that is just not relevant, you can go ahead and delete the row or put not relevant, doesn't apply. Whatever works for you. Okay. One aspect that they've moved this around a little bit. So I wanted to mention legal features. If you live on Earth, you will have legal features. Some people say, oh, we live out in the country, we don't have any. You will have either municipal, regional, county regulations. Just note what they are, like what jurisdictions are you under. If you have a stream and you think you might be messing around with that or wanting to do a diversion or water storage off of that, anything like that, you're going to be dealing with, for instance, if you're in California, CDFW, but like local water boards, authorities, anything like that is a good place to keep here, because you don't want to get down the road and be changing something or even just designing around something and then find out that, oh, you actually needed a permit and now that's getting ripped out or shut down, or you're I had a potential client who reached out to me who wanted to do it was a really cool project, wellness center around the Topanga area. Had very cool ideas, and I looked at them. I was like, "You're going to need a lake and stream bed and assessment. You're going to need alteration assessment. You're going to need this kind of permit, this kind of permit. You're going to need county permits, city permits." Oh well, you know what? We're going to just fly under the radar for all of that. He is now in I did not take on that project. He is now in Alaska trying to avoid jail time while the county rips out his entire property. So I don't like to see students messing around with legal features. Know what you're going to need to have permitted, what those legal structures are before you go ahead designing anything into your property. Okay, and Dave, do you still have a question?
Yeah, I wanted if you'd offer some guidance as to how to expand the existing and desired format, because like that I've literally got like 20 pages on that already.
Yeah. What you could do, when you say 20 pages, like, do you have a separate document?
Yeah. What I did is I put it into just a Word document.
Yeah.
And it was in large part, at least at this stage of my process, it was really just kind of an exercise for me to clarify thinking and get organized and whatnot. But even as I clean that up, it's the volume is going to far exceed what's available in space of the slide here.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to just link to that, that's fine. Yeah. Don't spend hours and hours and hours trying to shoehorn it into this format or like this small of an assessment. Like some of it, for some students, this is the first time they've considered these aspects. So if you've already gone through that whole process and done that work, you like go ahead and link a document. I'll just, I can glance over it, or, mention whatever works for you, but I wouldn't require that you shoehorn that in here. It's helpful if you can even just drop a note generally here. Find something that works for you that doesn't require hundreds of hours of like editing it down just to make this slide work.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay.
And kind of a related question. So the site inventory, categories, kind of they I think fairly easily can be mapped to the scale of permanence
Yes.
layers, and I'm wondering if it's okay to run with that, or if you would prefer to. I could just group them, for example, in the way that I see fit, and include the ones that aren't explicitly listed in the scale of permanence approach underneath the category that would seem to best apply, or I could just collapse them and just talk about them there. I don't know which you would prefer. I'm guessing it would be helpful to retain the headings that you have here in some form or fashion.
Yeah, it's definitely the ideal is just to retain it, because a lot of the structure of this course is actually has developed based on the scale of permanence and even the Regrarians framework, because like Andrew Millicent, Javin Bernakovich, Neil Bertrando, myself, I don't know about the other instructors, but those of us for sure all completed the Regrarians training in 2016. So that Regrarians training is very much formed on the foundation of a scale of permanence. Now, there's slight differences in the order of operations within the scale of permanence, mostly like within the middle sections of like forestry, soils, building, those sort of individual aspects. So, if you want to move these around, that's fine. But know that this is actually built on the scale of permanence, and where they've been like heating and cooling, I know would generally fall under energy, for instance, right? But having those separated out here is helpful, because they are generally separate pieces of equipment, or they're separate systems in a home. So understanding, kind of subhead them again, but understanding what the different systems are for that particular site is useful in a way that I think supersedes having them lumped under a single category. Now, I don't mind. Yeah, do what works for you, and I'll comment it on there if it doesn't work. But that's the foundation of this course layout.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of prefer that it didn't diverge too much, but given that you're going through various scale of permanence, I'm pretty open to what students present to me within that framework, as long as the information is covered somewhere within the lesson. So
that makes sense. Yeah. If anything, I would just steer it more explicitly to that grouping. So,
right. That's it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and then these are pretty straightforward. Client must-haves, nice to have, doesn't want. They're subjective. That can be a little paragraph, it can be a bullet note, bullet list, whatever works for you. Some images. Often people are pulling from Pinterest or other sites that they've visited that they find inspiring. Okay, it's just getting a catalog of what you or your client, or like you as the client or your external clients are wanting and looking for, and what they really want to avoid. Top client concerns and questions, and then your overall vision. So overall vision can be like, we're envisioning a U-pick food forestry operation, 2-acre orchard, with regenerative grazing operation for sheep. It can be pretty general, just like what is the overall purpose? What is the vision of what you want to create here? If you're thinking it's going to be a community education site, which I see a lot of that come through as vision, that's great. Be very specific about what you want that to look like, because those can be very different. There's, community like native plant and water retention educational sites. There's food forestry educational sites. There's a whole range of what that can mean. So just help me understand what you're envisioning putting on the ground, given what you have, having gone through the base map exercise. So if you've got questions or ideas that you want to run by me, feel free to email me or reach out in the WhatsApp group. So, okay. Okay, and then you've got one SWOT analysis for this lesson. So your lens here is going to be, given the site that you have, the what's actually on the ground existing, and then what that vision, visions and ideas, and what the client resources are available. What are your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and then you can either do threats, you can change this to constraints or challenges, whatever works for you. And I have reached out to the admin about the kind of confused, that inconsistent language here where they're using SWOT analyses, but they're explaining SWOC. So I'd like to see the threats kind of removed entirely, but use what works for you. And then just a few sentences about what you learned about your site from this assignment, what you learned from the assignment. Okay, and then if you have questions here, this is where it's helpful for you to have comments turned on, because I can leave written answers to your questions. Otherwise, I'll try to answer them in the feedback, or barring that, I'll answer them in written form in your speed grader. Okay, and that's it. That is the lesson 2 template. We've got about 15 minutes for questions, so I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Okay. Do we have any remaining questions or anything that came up from that? Ideas, hints, allegations, things left unsaid? If anyone remembers that album besides me. Yes, Sage.
Do you have any recommendations? So in my situation, it's like my contact is an architect who's designing the home on this plot. And then obviously the homeowner is his client, who I have also met at this point. And like, they're cool, they're open to it, but they're totally, me telling them what permaculture was their absolute first introduction to it. So in terms of getting vision, like, when we talked about, I told them, I'd be doing a case study on the property, and they were like, cool, we're excited about that. And we talked about fire resilience and soil remediation probably being like two of their biggest concerns there, having, the site having contamination from fire and whatnot. But my question is that, like, since they are totally new to permaculture as a design philosophy, and probably haven't spent a ton of time thinking about land use in general as like suburban homeowners, do you have any recommendations for kind of like I'm sure that in this interview, trying to figure out their vision, part of that will be me kind of suggesting possibilities. Do you have recommendations on like how to go about that, or I don't know, kind of best practice for your...
Yeah, keep it straightforward. They may, often I find what comes up is like, somebody said we could have chickens. Can we have chickens? And like, well, we heard that like so-and-so down the road has goats. Like, can we get goats? It's like, it kind of like it blows up fairly quickly. So what I might do in your case is take a look and get an idea of what you might envision could be possible. Now, you're in a tricky spot because you haven't gone through the course yet. Right. So, and I'm coming from the perspective of like, I could look at the site and probably give a fairly straightforward, knowing what I'd want to know are things like, what are their occupations? What's their free time like? What do they like to do in that free time? Do they want to take vacations? What are their available resources? Time, energy, financial. Financial might be is sometimes the big one. Right. Pacific Palisades, maybe not. So like that may not be a constraint, right? Like I don't know, I make assumptions. But having an idea of what their reality on the ground looks like, and say like what they want when they want to retire. can be important for putting some boundaries up around like your vision of what they could do there.
Okay.
So on a quarter acre, we had a quarter acre in Camarillo. So most years we ran about 30 muscovy. So we raised all of our own meat. We had like 16 to 20 rabbits. We had usually about like 7 chickens. We had egg production. We had food forestry. We had water harvesting, several different composting systems. That was not a system that most people walked into and they're like, "Ooh, I want to do that." Like that looks easy and fun, right? Like, so you stop moving. Sorry. The sedatives wore off the assistant again. Yeah, so get some constraints around what they might be able to do. Like what, if they have any hours in the day, you can kind of gauge their interest. If they're how old are they?
I don't know. I would say 60s.
Okay. So close to or like approaching retirement or retiring, maybe. So they may want to spend more time and more years gardening, and they may want to spend those years on a cruise ship or traveling.
Yep.
So that's going to make some very different design decisions for you. And there's no judgment there, but you're not going to want to, involve animal intensive systems, things like that. So I would kind of clarify what you can of what you think would work on that site, given your level of knowledge and understand where they're at. And then kind of use that to guide. It's going to be a back and forth. You might want to check in with the architect occasionally. Like, is this even realistic given what, if you're like planting near foundations and stuff like that, it's going to be important. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And I mean, even, when you get to the end of this course, you've got a full concept design. That's always considered a draft. It's draft one of potentially many, right? So, and things are always getting moved. Trees don't do well where you thought they would, or this just does, blocks the view or something. It's always changing. So,
Sure.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Any others? Nope. David, did you run out of questions?
Yeah. I just wanted to say, so far I've really appreciated the class. It's well organized, and like the interaction has been great. The comments I found that were offered both by you and by a couple other people for the first, submissions were just super nice. Really good dialogue, all good stuff. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's a fun part of the week. All right. Well, so no more questions from Merle, Lauren? You guys good? All right. Okay. Well, if you're not already in the WhatsApp group, I'm getting questions answered over there. So I encourage you at least to poke your nose in, because I find it's really useful. I can answer at red lights or while waiting for my daughter to pick up and stuff. It's a really fast, easy way to get questions answered. So, okay. Well, have a good week, and I look forward to seeing lesson 2.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.